Welcome back to Only the Truth, a true crime podcast hosted by me, Maureen, and Mian. And today we are going to focus on one of my most favorite novels, Rodeo, a Mary MacIntosh novel. I grew up in Sheridan, Wyoming, which is on the circuit for the famous rodeos. The Sheridan WYO Rodeo is one of the top notch in the country. It is so fun to attend with my family. Every year, my parents and sister still live in Sheridan, so I have a blast at the rodeo. I would like to share with you the cover of this novel. This picture is of the Indian relay races at the beginning of the rodeo every year. Very popular event. Some people go to the rodeo just to watch this event. And it's Native Americans from all over the place who race bareback in a relay, and it is just a hoot. Anyhow, my little sister, Michelle Meehan, who is a dentist in Sheridan, took this picture last summer at the rodeo. So this is an accurate depiction of what the Indian relay races look like. If you can see how these Native Americans are bareback on these horses racing each other. So fun. Highly recommend it. I'm going to start the podcast by reading a couple of the reviews like I usually like to do. This is by a woman named Megan at the end of 2023. Bucking Broncos and Serial Killers, a Wyoming thriller. Maureen Ann Meehan saddles up for another thrilling ride with her recurring character Mary MacIntosh in Rodeo, a Mary MacIntosh novel. Set against the dusty backdrop of the Sheridan WYO Rodeo, this installment finds our tough-as-nails prosecuting attorney, affectionately known as Mac, facing off against Wyoming's first female serial killer. Meehan once again proves she's a master at blending the gritty world of crime with the rich tapestry of Wyoming's history and rodeo culture. The story bucks and weaves like a wild bronco, keeping readers hanging on for dear life as Mac races against time to bring justice to a killer targeting teenagers during the rodeo festivities. It's a high-stakes game of cat and mouse that'll have you holding your breath until the very end. What really sets this book apart is Meehan's knack for seamlessly incorporating fascinating tidbits about Wyoming's past and the intricacies of rodeo life without breaking stride in the narrative. Fans of these series will appreciate the familiar comfort of Mac's no-nonsense approach, while newcomers will find themselves quickly drawn into her world. Whether you're a longtime follower of Mac's adventures or a first-time reader, Rodeo promises a wild ride. Next is another 5-star review, Bucking Broncos and Serial Killers. Oh, it's called Dark Thriller. Part of that's called Dark Thriller. Perfect fans of dark atmospheric thrillers. This story follows a female prosecutor. She faces off against the state's first female serial killer and targets teenagers during the event of the Sheridan WYO Rodeo. With a fast-paced plot, rich historical context of Wyoming and the rodeo world, this book offers both suspense and insight. Meehan crafts a gripping tale that keeps readers hooked from start to finish. This is called a gripping legal thriller. The Sheridan WYO Rodeo in Sheridan, Wyoming attracts some of the finest rodeo riders in the sport. They are there to compete for cash prizes and bragging rights, but somehow there is much more sinister going on in this novel. A female serial killer is a distinct rarity, but that is what appears to be happening. As the tension mounts and the bodies start dropping, enter Mary MacIntosh, the prosecutor that all criminals in Sheridan fear. She has tackled several high-profile cases in the past, and she doesn't shy away from this one. The teenage victims of this homicidal female fatale demand for her to stand as their advocate, whether in life or death. Rodeo by Maureen Meehan is another series of highly entertaining legal crime thrillers starring the character Mary MacIntosh. It is reminiscent of certain crime dramas taking place in the Western United States, such as movies and TV shows popularized by Taylor Sheridan's Rodeo. The small town of Sheridan is not fictional, and when you read about it, you feel like you are right there in person. Such an evocative power of Meehan's prose. Elegant, simple, Hemingway with a dash of Laura Ingalls Wilder. The character of Mary MacIntosh, dubbed Mac by her friends, anchors this series nicely. She is pleasant but tough, a no-nonsense legal eagle with a strong sense of right and wrong. She wants to put the bad guys away, and there's more criminality in such a small town than anyone could reasonably expect. That's fine, though, because Mian gives fodder for endless courtroom dramas, and even the townsfolk of Sheridan frequently wind up as murder victims. The side characters contribute to the sense of community brilliantly, as even the ones who only appear on the few pages remain memorable. The villain here is also appropriately sinister, and it's easy to get on board with Mac's quest for justice. This is a page turner, and no mistake, a brief but fun, diversive, worthy of your time and attention. Now we're going to focus on the novel itself. So I'm going to read a few excerpts that I think you will find interesting. The Sheridan WYO Rodeo is full of history unique to this quintessential Western town located in the nook of the Bighorn Mountains as part of the Rocky Mountain chain. In 1926 and 1929, the event took place on the PK Ranch west of Sheridan. It proved to people that when 20,000 people attended back in the early to mid 20s, that it was a rare and incredibly fun event. The first Sheridan WYO rodeos organized by a group of citizens who wanted to pull the small town of Sheridan up on the map. The first rodeo was a great success. Horses forever changed the life on the Great Plains. They tipped the balance of power in favor of mounted warriors, and they are prized as wealth. For Native Americans, horses continue to endure as an emblem of tradition and a source of pageantry, pride, and healing. Indian relay races have been an expansive history that has spanned hundreds of years, and it is considered one of the first sports created and is known as the oldest and most extreme sports in the nation. The relay has a rich history, and the best of the best travel to compete against one another. This famous race is a way for teams to compete for cash and prizes. The famous race is a way, so these teams consist of a 3-man relay, 2 holders, and a mugger. The race starts in front of the grandstands with the holders and the muggers holding the horse, while the rider takes a 3-step approach to mount each of the 3 horses per team. Racers make 1 lap around the track, often changing first place positions on numerous occasions, which engages the crowd in loud roars and cheers. The rider changes horses 3 times in front of the grandstands using this 3-step mount. The holders line the wall, which can become very dangerously entertaining, and often the horses, the riders, and holders collide, which causes huge excitement for the spectators. Timers keep track of the heats, and teams with the best times advance to the championship race on Saturday night. These natives are extremely athletic in nature, and they train daily for these competitions. Crow, Cheyenne, Lakota, Sioux, Cheyenne, Shoshone, and other Indian tribes participate for the prize money, which can be as high as $100,000. The tribes ceremoniously smoke a peace pipe as part of the relay race. Next, I'm going to pivot to the serial killer. Up until the summer of 2024, John Wayne Gacy was an American serial killer and sex offender who raped, tortured, and murdered at least 33 young men and boys in Norwood Park Township near Chicago, Illinois. He became known as the Killer Clown due to his public performances as a clown prior to the discovery of his crimes. Gacy committed all of his known murders inside a ranch-style house. Typically, he would lure victims to his home and dupe them into donning handcuffs as a magic trip. He would then rape and torture before killing. Mary MacIntosh has a female John Wayne Gacy in town at the rodeo who, like John Wayne Gacy, is dressed up like a rodeo clown and is part of the carnival, which is in conjunction with the rodeo at the Sheridan WYO Rodeo. The carnival happens in conjunction with the rodeo at the fairgrounds and runs Wednesday through Sunday from 5 to midnight. Rides are fairly traditional to a carnival and include the tilt-a-whirl, the zipper, the spider, etc. And young riders enjoy this, as well as little children do the Ferris wheel, carousel, and bumper cars. It is a big draw for fans who live in Sheridan, Wyoming, and anyone who is attending the Sheridan WYO Rodeo. In this book, Rodeo by Mary MacIntosh, a Mary MacIntosh thriller, it is this female clown who dresses up at the fairgrounds for the carnival, lures teenagers, kind of loners, into what she's doing, the haunted house, and she kidnaps them and kills them. She then has to escape because she's they figure out Mary MacIntosh figures out who it is that's doing these killings, so she escapes to Cheyenne, Wyoming, the capital of the state of Wyoming. The Cheyenne Frontier Days Arena was Wyoming's first airfield. In 1911, Guy Stoddard attempted to fly an airplane into this bunker, and it started the tradition of Frontier Park and the Cheyenne Frontier Days. Goes on to explain what Frontier Days is. It's another rodeo and big event in the state's capital, and it's very well attended. It has great country music bands that come from all over the place to perform in the grandstands at night. It is a very, very fun thing to do. The Wyoming symbol is a bucking bronco, and this bucking bronco's name is Steamboat. And it was one of the few bucking broncos that nobody ever could ride. He was untamable. He appeared at the Cheyenne Frontier Days, and he bucked every single cowboy off. So Mac goes into great detail talking about that, or I guess I do. I wrote it, but I have attended Frontier Days, and it is a hootenanny. But then so we have our serial killer there at Frontier Days doing the same thing. So she's on the lam again. So she heads to Douglas, Wyoming, which is home to the Wyoming State Fair. Douglas has hosted the Wyoming State Fair since 1905, and it's very well attended as a rodeo and a state fair for 4-H youngsters who compete against one another for all kinds of, whether it's cattle, steer raising, or baking, arts and crafts, you name it. It's very, very fun event in the small town of Douglas. But our serial killer goes there next and is doing the same thing with 5 other teenagers. So she's a prolific serial killer, and goes after all these teenagers. Well, Mac catches up with her in Douglas, and therefore she's on the lam again. The Hole in the Wall is a remote pass in the Bighorn Mountains of Johnson County, Wyoming. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the Hole in the Wall gang and Butch Cassidy's Wild Bunch met there, and that is, anyone who's ever heard of the term a hole in the wall, it is based on a real place near Sheridan, Wyoming, where Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid hid out after robbing banks and trains. So now we have our serial killer on the lam in the Hole in the Wall. And they're narrowing in. Mac and her investigatory team, including Sheriff Burgess from Cheyenne, have joined forces, and they are after this killer. So I'm not going to tell you how it ends, because you'll have to read this book in order to capture the ending of it. But I will assure you that it is a thrilling, gripping ride. It's based on a lot of true things that do happen in the state of Wyoming. I think I described them well since I've attended all of the above. And I think as the reader, you feel immersed in the state of Wyoming, its history, events that happen there that are very, very popular. And you will enjoy the thrill of the Indian relay races, the town parade, the Native American powwows. I try to describe it well since I've seen it many, many times. I usually go every summer with my family. And stay tuned. I hope you pick up a copy of Rodeo, a Mary MacIntosh novel, at a local bookstore near you. Or you can find it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Any bookstore sells Rodeo, and I'm very proud of this work. It is part of my culture, part of my life, part of my upbringing, and I think it's a good read. All right. Thank you for watching this podcast, and stay tuned for Only the Truth. Our next true crime podcast is going to pivot to a story that I wrote a while back, but I just love it. And it's based on the horse whisperer who actually has a ranch outside of my hometown of Sheridan, Wyoming. Buck Brannaman and his wife, Mary, are wonderful people. And we are going to pivot to something that happened on his ranch in my next novel, my podcast, Powder River Poison. Until then, take care, and true crime, you just can't make it up. Thank you.